And good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we'll be taking our usual broad look around the DMV landscape. We're going to kick it off by talking a whole world of baseball. We will officially be saying goodbye to one of our teams for the time being. That is the Washington Nationals, whose season has been over for, well, quite a while, but we have to give them a proper send-off. Much like we did the Mystics last week, we have to give the Nationals their proper due. Then, of course, we have to talk about the Orioles, who are going to the playoffs, locked up their spot, but now the real challenge begins. What do they need to do in the playoffs? We will then jump over to football, where we have lots of football to talk about. We've got the pros with the Commanders winning record much, and the Ravens, who almost blew a fourth quarter lead, but did not blow it this time. And then we have college football as well, where Maryland continues to disappoint, and Virginia Tech kind of gets wrong against Miami. We're definitely going to talk about that. We'll also need to check in with DC United as their season hits the home stretch. Another case of a DC team that has been out of it for quite a while. All while finishing up the September theme of the month with one last winking owl option. We've got all that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And once again, good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and who, for the past 10 years, has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities across the country. If you have not done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms, on X, on Twitter, or X is Twitter, sorry, my mistake, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So check us out all there. Oh, Taryn Rodriguez jumping in the chat room saying, sorry for going over, sir. No problem, sir. You know, I'm happy to give a little bit of time to such a great show as the SoCal Supreme Sports. But yes, follow us on all these social media platforms. You can also follow yours truly at Let's Whine_IESR. You can find me on Instagram, X, and TikTok with that one. You can also find us on all of these listening platforms. So if you're listening live tonight, or if you happen to be listening later on the week, both are much appreciated. You can check us out here. We're on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, all of the above. You've got all of these options right here, so do check them out. You also should check out our website, iesportsradio.com. There you will find our merchandise. We've got hats, we've got hoodies, we've got t-shirts, we've got all different kinds of things. You should definitely check that out. You can check out our show pages. This is specifically the link for yours truly, but you will find links for all over 30 shows that we have here at IE Sports Radio. You'll also find the blog, which you can find here or at iesportsradioblog.wordpress.com. But yeah, so you've got both options there. And of course, we have to give a shout out to our sponsors, but let's kick it off to Adam Karnick, who does the voice here, to give you a little bit of a better word about our first sponsor.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Brisket Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. They've got all different kinds of flavors, ranging from, the really simple ones like classic barbecue, the classics that everybody likes, all the way up to the really spicy ones like volcanic jalapeno, Carolina Reaper, ghost pepper. So they've got all different flavors, and they definitely have something for you. So definitely check them out. You can check them out on Instagram at Planet Jerky, and you can order direct from their website. Their jerky's only like $10, and that's a really good price for premium jerky these days. So definitely get yourself some of that. And also Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B., a wonderful last little touch on your wedding invitations, your party invitations, your baby shower invitations, all of the above, and many more examples that I probably can't even think of off the top of my head right now. So definitely check her out on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax seals, and you can actually order her stuff direct from the IE Sports website at the link below. Also, shout out again to Adam Karnick, the host of the Chi-Town Weekly show, and also the host of Neutral Zone. So he's going to be really busy. That's our hockey show. He's going to be really busy here coming up in just a couple of weeks, who lent his voice to the Planet Jerky soundbite, and also Jen B., the host of our Show of the Land show, our Cleveland-based show, for lending her voice to the Seal the Deal commercial. And Jen B., I wanted to let you know the Commanders and Cleveland Browns play each other coming up in just a couple of weeks. So if you are listening out there, I openly invite you to come on the show not right now, but leading up to that game, and we can have a fun little powwow, probably complaining about both of our teams, because, actually, she's very optimistic, but I complain about the Commanders all the time. Now, if it was the Commanders playing the Raiders and it was station founder Larry B., who, good evening, sir, greetings from South Coast Winery Wine Country in Temecula, California, Temecula Valley. So great for Larry B. But if he were on talking about our Raiders, we would just have a complaint fest the whole time. We have a lot of sports to get to, but first, of course, we must talk about our wine of the evening. Now, we've been doing a Winking Owl theme this month. We tried their Sweet White, their Moscato, which was pretty decent. Their Sauvignon Blanc, probably more of a food wine or a cooking wine. And then their Merlot last week, which is actually a relatively pleasant sipper. It wasn't bad. It was pretty solid as just a casual sipping wine. But we are finishing off the month with their Sweet Red. Now, let's read the description because Winking Owl's descriptions have actually been pretty on point to date, with the exception of the food pairing for the Merlot. Do not pair that Merlot with a steak. Don't do it. All right, so we've got a sweet taste. Well, it's a sweet red, so I should hope so. Medium bodied, which is interesting for a sweet wine. Usually you don't really put that much into the body, but hey, we'll find out. Blackberry and raspberry flavors with a velvety soft finish. That's what they have for the notes. Barbecue beef ribs and spicy fajitas for the food pairings. And that actually makes sense because typically, excuse me, typically you actually do go with a sweet wine pairing for some of your really flavorful foods just because you want to get some different flavors. So not that you automatically have to go that route, but really flavorful foods, you need a really flavorful wine. Otherwise, you're not going to taste anything. And usually sweet wines come across with that little extra kick. They also kind of complement the spicy flavors a little bit better. So hence the spicy fajita. So I actually probably agree with that. Best when served chilled. I did chill this a little bit, but as with any reds, even if they're sweet reds, you don't want to get them too cold. Sweet whites and sparkling wines, you can get, as cold as you really want. I mean, don't freeze them, but you can get them as cold as you want, really. But sweet reds, you do want chilled, but you don't want them overly chilled because then you probably won't get the proper expression of the wine. Alrighty, so here we go. We got our first little tasty bit right here. I love screw caps. I'll say that every time. And this is what we've got. It is very see-through. In fact, I think you could probably see me through that, can't you? Not really seeing where they get the medium body here. There's a little effervescence. I see the bubbles there. Wasn't really expecting that. But I don't really see how they get the body. I don't see how this could be anything but light bodied. Definitely more of that rosé, like light red color as opposed to the dark red. Not really getting much on the aromas. Let's give it a little swirly swirl, see if we can't get those aromas released a bit here. Not getting very much, but also my nose is a little stuffed. I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. Don't worry, wasn't COVID. I tested. So that's probably the factor on that. But of course, it all comes down to the taste. Now, a reminder, Winking Owl, $4, at least here in North Carolina. So, don't expect the best bottle you've ever had in your life. But is it good enough to where you're spending $4 and you're getting better than your money's worth? That's always where you want to get. If you're getting a cheap wine, you want better than your money's worth. And I think so far, probably 2 out of 3, I would say we hit that. The Sauvignon Blanc was a little 50-50, but the Moscato and the Merlot, I would say we've passed that. So let's see if they can go 3 for 4 here. So despite the bubbles, no effervescence, nothing like that. It's sweet but not overpowering. It might not be chilled enough, so I might not be getting the full expression of the sweetness. The flavors are soft and subtle. I do get the raspberry. It definitely has a velvety soft finish. It's got a really easy finish. No dryness, no tannin, no acidity, nothing like that. It's not bad. It's simple. It doesn't it's not over expressive in any one direction, like in terms of like the fruit flavors are not overpowering, the sweetness is not overpowering. I still don't know where they get medium bodied from on that one, but overall, for $4, that's pretty dang good. I would definitely go for that, especially if you're a sweet wine drinker. I think that one might be a winner right there for you. So definitely, if you are in an Aldi looking at wines, the Winking Owl Sweet Red, if you're a sweet wine drinker, give it a shot for sure. That one definitely hits the mark. So I would say 3 out of 4 for Winking Owl hit the mark of what we were looking for. They're $4, so they're cheap. They drink above kind of that price point, and they're just good value. They're just good valued wines. So if you're a sweet wine drinker, they hit those. I know they also have like a sangria, which is really simple. A sangria just has to taste like fruit. It doesn't even have to taste like wine. And the red wine, the Merlot, was not bad. So maybe they're drier whites. Maybe you aim for more of a food pairing cooking wine. But yeah, I would say the rest of them pretty good. Not bad, Winking Owl. Not a bad way to end Winking Owl Wine Month. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to jump into some baseball. We're going to cover a lot of baseball tonight. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It is now time to get us into some baseball talk, and we are going to kick it off with a team whose season, well, really was gone a long time ago, but is now really kind of officially over. The Washington Nationals. Now, technically speaking, there's still one game left in the season. They play the Philadelphia Phillies tomorrow. However, their record of 71-90, the one game isn't going to make that much of a difference, except for the fact that if they win tomorrow, they do beat their record from last year, which was 71-91. Part of me wants them to lose tomorrow just so that the records match. I don't know why, but that would be interesting. And also, really no chance of them switching positions like for draft purposes, because the only team that is close to them is Oakland, and I believe Oakland is one of the two teams, Oakland and Chicago White Sox, who just completed their historically bad season, are the two teams that cannot get in the draft lottery. So their draft positioning's locked in. Their record is pretty much locked in where it is. Their positioning overall is pretty much where it is. So we're going to go ahead and give them the proper send-off. Now, a lot of people are calling this season a disappointment for the Nationals. I heartily disagree. I thought this season was going to be a train wreck. You looked at the roster entering the year. They had a weird combination of like journeyman veterans who they had brought in on short-term deals to try to maybe flip at the deadline, which they then turned around and did with a couple of guys. So you had that combining with some young up-and-coming talent that hadn't quite developed. So I thought this season was going to be a train wreck. I thought anything under 100 losses was going to be a success. So the fact that they are going to finish either 71-91 or 72-90 is a very good result to me. Now let's get to some awards. Season MVP. Now this one, at the halfway point, it was C.J. Abrams, and we're going to talk about him in a minute, but he really fell off in the second half. A lot of people would say Luis Garcia, second baseman, and he had a great year, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to go a different route, maybe a surprising route. I'm going to go with center fielder Jacob Young as the season MVP for the Nationals. Why? Now, why am I taking Young? Well, he put up okay offensive numbers. They weren't great, but he's a 9 hitter. You know, you're not going to get a 300 hitter with a 500 slugging percentage and a 375 on base. You're not going to get that out of a 9 hitter, okay? And that's his role. So his batting average, I think, like 255 with like a 320 on base and a really low slugging percentage because that's not his game. Not surprising, but where he did provide incredible value was on the defensive end as one of the best defenders, not one of the best young defenders, not one of the best defensive center fielders or defensive outfielders, one of the best, if not the best, defender in baseball this year. If you look up all of the advanced metrics, they have him very high in every regard. I think he's the leader in whoever calculates defensive or outs above average. I think he's the leader or tied for the lead in that. He wins in all advanced metrics. And this was a key area for this team developmentally speaking, because you looked in their ranks and you had several possible center fielders, James Woods, Dylan Cruz, Robert Hassel, Elijah Green, and none of them were perfect. Elijah Green still has tremendous upside defensively. In fact, he was the Nationals minor league defensive player of the year. But Dylan Cruz, you're like, could he be a center fielder in the league? James Wood, could he be a center fielder like an Aaron Judge type because he's 6'7", 250 pounds? Could he be an Aaron Judge-like center fielder? Could Robert Hassel be that guy in center, very solid yet unspectacular? But no, here comes Jacob Young in his essentially rookie year. He did play some last year, and not only establishes himself as a good defensive center fielder, but one of the best defensive center fielders. And he went from the team essentially probably treating him as a fourth outfielder to now the team's probably going to be like, hang on a second, we can't just take this guy out when Hassel is ready, for example, who's one of the top prospects in the minor league, because they didn't move him when Dylan Cruz and James Wood came up, the two top prospects in the organization and two of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball. They didn't move him for them. Elijah Green is still at least 3 years away from the majors. Robert Hassel, will he be able to hit consistently enough to warrant putting him in over Jacob Young? Will his bat overcome the difference between Jacob Young's glove and his glove, and also the speed. Now, Young had 32 stolen bases. You'd like to see a little bit more than that from him. So that's one thing that I would like to see improve moving forward. But yeah, Jacob Young, phenomenal season, especially defensively for the team. So that is why he gets my season MVP for the Nationals. Unsung hero, another one that might surprise you, Keibert Ruiz. Now, let me explain this one a little bit. Through, I believe it was like May 7th or May 8th, Keibert Ruiz was both statistically and by advanced metrics, I believe, the worst player in baseball. His OPS, not his batting average, not his on-base percentage, not his slugging percentage, the combination of his on-base and slugging, his OPS was below 400. His batting average was something stupid. It was like 127 or something ridiculous. But the team kept faith, and they continued to give him opportunities. Admittedly, they rested him a few games here and there. They didn't play him every day for a little while. But with that, and including today's numbers where he went 2 for 4, he got that batting average from 127 to 229, so a 100-point improvement over the course of the season. He got his on-base percentage up to 260, which I believe, again, was over a 100-point improvement. And he got his slugging percentage up to 359. So that puts his OPS up to 619 from 394. So that's a 225-point increase, while also not being a bad. He wasn't the greatest defensive catcher, but he wasn't bad either. He essentially navigated his way from being league worst to essentially league average, which is a lot harder of a step than I think people give credit for. So I got to give him credit for his improvements there. And I think, yeah, on a season where, there were some inconsistencies and, some guys didn't, kind of dropped off in the second half, I think he just had that steady climb from that awful start to become not bad. So there you go. Keibert Ruiz, my unsung hero. Now, we do have one interesting thing to talk about. The CJ Abrams situation. So I meant to talk about this last week because it was actually more relevant last week. But all-star shortstop CJ Abrams was demoted for the final week of the season from the major league team to the AAA affiliate. And most people didn't know why until news came out that the night before his demotion, he had been at a casino. This is the rumor, so I don't have a verified source, but this seems to be the general consensus, is that he was out very, very late at a casino, and apparently the team had warned him about some of his off-time activities. Not to say that he was doing anything dangerous per se or illicit, although I don't really know. But, things like gambling and staying out late and things like that. Apparently, he had multiple warnings, and the team decided to demote him. Now, this puts them at a very interesting crossroads. Right now, you look at it overall, they don't really have a definitive full-time replacement shortstop either on the roster or as a highly touted prospect coming up through the minors. So that'll be really interesting to see how that develops. But this is a situation that team is going to have to handle. They're going to have to handle it delicately because he's going to be an important player as the team continues to rebuild. And his lack of presence could be very significant long term if these things do not get handled properly. Moving on to the off-season outlook, I do not expect this team to be big spenders. I do think that they are going to continue to rely on their young talent. They still have a ton of young players. I don't think they're going to be re-signing veterans like Trevor Williams, like Patrick Corbin, like Joey Gallo. I think they're going to let all those guys go. I also don't think they're going to go the route of those 1-year veteran flyers who you try to flip at the deadline. I think, they might be past that part of their rebuild and just getting young players playing time. But I think one thing I would like to see them address, and I would like to see them throw the bag at, is a middle of the order power DH slash first baseman slash maybe corner outfielder, but most likely DH bat, because they don't have a ton of those options. Again, working their way up through the minors, they really only have one, Yohandy Morales. And he's not a guy who, if you can throw the bag at a guy like Pete Alonso of the Mets, or Christian Walker, or heaven forbid Anthony Santander from the Orioles, or the dream scenario, you bring back Juan Soto. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but man, would that be amazing. If you get the opportunity to throw the bag at guys like that, then you're not going to let Yohandy Morales stop you from doing that. So if they were to make one major signing, which they do have some more financial flexibility with Trevor Williams and Patrick Corbin coming off the books, and a pitching rotation and bullpen that is going to cost the team probably about the equivalent of my biweekly paycheck against their salary cap. So, yes, I would like to see them make one big splashy move, maybe also a solid bullpen addition. And the reason why I think you do that now is because next year might not be this team's year, but I think you're going to continue to see improvements. And I think 2026 is really going to be the year where they start to explode. And if you get the opportunity to add a couple of these guys now, then you have them locked in for that 2026 season, and they can be contributors along with these young guys coming up. As for the draft outlook, it's still a ways away, but the team is very much so. I don't see how they don't end up with the top 5 pick. I think they're number 4 in odds. I don't think you can really drop very far. I mean, I guess it's happened, but they're very likely going to be in the top 5, which means they're going to add another prospect. I haven't really gotten a chance to look just because it's 9 months away. More than that likely. So we don't even know who the top prospects are going to be. I would say probably not pitching, because they have a bunch of pitching prospects now, and all of their current guys on the roster are young. So probably don't need pitching in the top 5/10. So maybe a really good bat who can bring a couple other tools to the table. Not an outfielder, probably also as well. Heck, maybe a shortstop. Who knows? We shall see. But enough about the team who is going away. Let's get to the team that is here to stay, at least for a little while longer, and that is going to be the Baltimore Orioles. Now, for their weekly review, they took 2 of 3 from the Yankees, and they officially clinched a wild card spot and the 4th seed, so the top wild card in the American League. They currently sit at 89 and 71, and they're currently beating the Minnesota Twins 9-0, entering the bottom of the 9th. And they better not blow this one. They've got Keegan Aiken coming in, so I think Aiken will probably be able to handle that one pretty well. So that'll get them to 90 and 71, which is great. To see the team get to 90 wins again. It's the first time that they have had 90 wins in back-to-back seasons since the 80s. So that is great. And they will be hosting a wild card series. Now, I actually kind of preferred that to last year when they were the number 1 seed because, well, they got swept in the divisional series. So I was like, that didn't work so well for us. Maybe let's try being the wild card and see if we can't use that to get some momentum. The only downside is that it will probably be against the Detroit Tigers, who just took 4 of 6 in 3-game series against us, and will likely, especially with Kansas City losing today, that all but seals it, and are one of the hottest teams entering the playoffs. So that was not the greatest draw that you could have gotten, but it is what it is. So postseason keys, what do we need? We need the bats. That's just straight up what it is. None of this inconsistent crap that we've had to deal with for the past 3 months. Bring the bats every day, all day, score all the runs, because the rotation's going to be solid. I think your playoff rotation's going to be pretty decent, but the bullpen has been really inconsistent. They had like a 5.6 ERA in September. Admittedly, a lot of that was hurt by Craig Kimbrell's fallout, and Kimbrell will not be on the playoff roster. So there you go. You can check that one off the list. But the bullpen is not great. They don't really have a closer. So they're going to need to have 3 to 4 run leads entering the 8th and 9th innings to feel comfortable winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, and 4 out of 7 games. That's just straight up what it is. Now, the rotation strategy, it's really interesting because obviously Ace Corbin Burns is going to be one of your regular rotation guys, and free agent acquisition Zach Eflin, who just had his first not great start as an Oriole. Oh no. Those two definitely have their spots. Typically, teams go to a 4-man rotation for the playoffs just because you get your best pitcher cycling through quicker. But they have 3 guys to debate here. They have journeyman Albert Suarez, who came from nowhere to be one of the better pitchers on this team this year. They have Dean Kramer, who's been with the team for a while. Very reliable, very solid as that number 4, number 5 type pitcher. So he definitely should get a look. And then they also have rookie Cade Povich, who had a 2.6 ERA over 5 starts in September. So really interesting to see how you do those last 2 spots. Be a really good matchup against, assuming again, the Tigers. Next Tuesday, as they announce Corbin Burns will be the starter, which is why they pulled him after only 69 pitches on Thursday, because he'll have to turn around on Tuesday and get the start. And then I'm assuming Eflin will go too, and we'll have to see. I know it won't be Suarez because they have Suarez pitching tomorrow. So it's going to be – I would be willing to bet Kramer, assuming, of course, they have to go 3, which if they don't go 3 is probably because we lost the first 2. But I would expect it to be Kramer for 3. And I almost half expected, since Detroit was going to be starting Tariq Skubal for the first game, I almost half expected them to put Kramer in for game 1 and to say, you know what, we're going to play the matchup game a little bit and have our 2 best pitchers go against your not best pitcher and try to win it that way. I thought that would have been an interesting strategy, but they're not doing that. That's just me probably being too analytical and too much thinking outside of the box. But the Orioles are in the postseason. They're going to be playing in a wild card game. Let's pack Camden Yards, folks, and let's see if we can't will this team to a wild card victory so that we can turn around and we can play the New York Yankees in the divisional round. Let's see if we can't get it done. We're going to take our second break of the evening. When we come back, we're going to jump into some football really quick. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are in the final part of our show, which is, of course, my prime time to remind everybody of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I will not be going anywhere after this, and if you have been drinking, neither should you. So, if you're at home, please stay put. Or if you're out and about enjoying your evening, your weekend, maybe you met up with friends, maybe you're watching some of the college football games. Alabama and Georgia are playing right now, so I'm sure the bars are packed for that one. But whatever the reason may be, please find a safe method home. Uber, taxi, designated driver, Lyft, Amazon, ship yourself home. I don't care what it is. Just please do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. A little bit of an update, by the way. The Orioles did just finish off the Twins 9-2, so the team officially advances to 90-71. So we're back on first time they've had back-to-back 90-win seasons since the early 80s. All right, but let's jump into some football. We've had a really good stretch for these Washington Commanders. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals 38-33. Another game where the team did not punt. And I love this quote. I found this quote by punter Tress Way. I used to punt at one time, but he hasn't punted now in 2 games. He hasn't punted since week 1. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels did get his first passing touchdown. And of course, as everybody predicted, it was to reserve offensive lineman Trenton Scott. I definitely had that one a parlay, probably 8,000 to 1 odds. If I had put $10 on that, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd be retired in the Caribbean, sipping a lovely drink. But, you know, who was to know that? But yeah, and Terry McLaurin with a clutch catch late in the game. Scary Terry finally broke out, finally found his connection with Jaden Daniels, and it was really interesting because his first big catch of the day was a 55-yarder where he blew past Cam Britt-Taylor, cornerback of the Bengals, who had comments this past week or the week before the game saying, oh, you know, those Commanders, they really were on like a college offense, I guess trying to be insulting. Well, buddy, you got burned by a college offense. So there you go. And the defense, while they were bad again, the offense just managed to outscore the opponent. The defense is actually the 32nd ranked defense in the league, and the team is 2-1. So that's really a testament to the rookie, to the offensive coaches as well for getting this offense out there and getting them to control the tempo of the game and to score points. They've got a really intriguing matchup coming up against the Cardinals this week. Kyler Murray has been on a roll to start the season. And while the Cardinals have not been incredible overall, some of their players have been incredibly good, especially Murray. Trey McBride is also a player that scares me. But the Cardinals defense, I think, has been pretty rough. Let's take a quick look at the numbers here. I know, obviously, the Commanders defense has been rough, so I expect the Cardinals to be able to score some points, which is really interesting when you have a defensive head coach and added a lot to the defensive side of the ball in the offseason, and then your defense sucks. It's really fascinating. So let's see. The Arizona Cardinals. Oh, well, you know, they've only given up 64 points in 3 games, but they're 1-2 despite being plus 18. Oh, it's because they beat the Rams 41-10, but they lost their other games by 1 possession. Okay, well, you've got a little bit of a skew there. So defense hasn't been bad for them. They only gave up more than 20 points once to the Bills, which I understand because it's the Bills. So this should be an intriguing game. It's another test to see where this team actually is behind their rookie quarterback. Of course, now we have to jump to the team that I knew early on that this team was going to raise my blood pressure this year, but they're doing a really good job, and I don't know where I got that color from. That is not the right Ravens color. Wow, that is. There we go. That's better. All right. So the Ravens did beat the Cowboys 28-25, but don't let that score deceive you. They were up 28-6 entering the fourth quarter, and they almost lost this one. In fact, a couple of 2-point conversions go the right way, and that game is probably tied and going to overtime. I don't know what this team's problem is, and I don't know why they can't finish games, but they need to figure it out because they've got one of the best teams in football coming to town. And this is a team that wins games without the refs' help. So they're going to need to be on their A game against the Bills. Thankfully, it's at home, so that gives them a little bit more of an advantage, but they're 3-0. Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level. Got rid of their star wide receiver. Didn't matter. Didn't miss a beat. Defense is playing. Everything's doing well for the Bills. So, yeah, little bit of a concern there. So, yeah, the Ravens, better on defense. Be better on defense in the second half. You guys keep blowing second half leads. Just the defense is the one that needs to finish these off. I mean, it'd be nice if the offense continued to score. Keep the foot on the pedal. Don't back off in the final 5 minutes. I don't get it. But do better. Do better, Ravens. Do better. And then there's this team. So I saw this all over Twitter all week. Maryland, 3-1, going up against Indiana, 4-0 Indiana. Team that everybody who's a Terps fan is calling overrated, overhyped. They're not really that team. Well, I think there is somebody who really isn't that team, and I think it might be Maryland because they lost 42-28 and really kind of got lucky on one of those because Roman Himby had a 75-yard touchdown run where the ref blocked one of the Indiana defenders unintentionally. So not only did they lost and they got a gift too. Excuse me. So yeah. What can we say? Maryland does this every year. They act like they're going to be on the up and up, but they can't beat Big Brother. And they have a tough remaining schedule. They have 3 top 15 teams, USC, Oregon, and Penn State. They have 2 home games, excuse me, against not easy conference opponents in Rutgers and Iowa, and then Minnesota and Northwestern. Those are probably their 2 easiest games, but there are no gimmies. And if they're losing to Indiana and Michigan State, which are their 2 losses, then any of those 7 games could be up in the air. If they don't get their momentum right, now they've got Northwestern next week, but then they have USC, and then I think it's Minnesota. They need those wins against Northwestern and Minnesota, or they need to find a way to upset USC, because if they're not 5-3 entering that stretch, that final stretch with Oregon, Rutgers, Iowa, and Penn State, if they're not 5-3 entering that stretch, I don't know if they make it to 6-6 and get a bowl game. They might not, because there's no guarantee they go 2-2 in those 4. They might go 1-3. They might go 0-4. But at least if you only have to win one of them, you've got a fighting shot. But if you're not 5-3 after these next 3 games, Maryland, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Speaking of a team that's in big trouble, Virginia Tech losing to Miami. Now, there's a little bit of controversy at the end. Virginia Tech appeared to catch a Hail Mary as time expired to win the game. However, it was a really confusing play. I watched the replay like 3 or 4 times. You can see the Virginia Tech player go up. He gets his hands on it. He brings it in. He lands. The ball bobbles a little bit. I think a Miami defender rips it out of his arms or something. He's on top of a guy. I think he ends up out of bounds. The other guy ends up out of bounds. You're out of bounds. I'm out of bounds. Your grandma's out of bounds. Everybody's out of bounds. It's just a very weird 50-50 play, but it was called a touchdown on the field. And I don't know if it's one of those really interesting situations where by the rule of the law, by the law of the rule, it says you need indisputable evidence. It says that at the collegiate and the NFL level, and I don't know if refs really understand what that means, but you have to be sure that that what that if you're changing it, you have to be sure that you're right. That it's in science, if you don't find evidence to disprove something, or enough evidence to disprove something, then newsflash, you can't disprove it. So if you call it a touchdown on the field and you're 50-50, you keep it a touchdown. And you tell Miami, deal with it. It was a close play. It looked like he had it, and then it got ripped out of his arms after he landed. He landed in bounds with it. You tell Miami, hey, we made the call. We couldn't find enough evidence to overturn it, and you guys can go cry about it. Now, of course, there's the other point that a couple people pointed out was this game was in Miami. So did the home team bias come into effect there? It's happened before. It happened with the Fail Mary in Seattle a few years ago. A lot of people, a lot of stories, with the Immaculate Reception in Pittsburgh. A lot of people say, well, I think the reason they made that call is because it was in Pittsburgh. So did the home field advantage play a part in that decision? You could make that argument. However, the fact is that they overturned the call, and Virginia Tech falls to 2-3 on the season, which is kind of disappointing. It would have been nice for them to steal a win like that, but they're playing good football. The problem is you got to go 4-3 now to get to a bowl game, and is that possible with their remaining schedule? I'm not entirely sure, because Virginia Tech isn't one of those teams that comes out every week and is going to dominate opponents they should dominate and be competitive like they were against Miami. They could come out next week and be just completely flat and not win a game they're supposed to win. But let's take a look at their schedule really quick. Virginia Tech, there we go. All right, let's see. At Stanford, home against Boston College, home against Georgia Tech, Syracuse, Clemson, Duke, Virginia. So there's only one ranked team. There are 4 home games. The away games are tough at Syracuse, at Duke, and at Stanford. Those are all winning teams. So I don't know. I don't know if 4-3's in the card for this team. But, at least they had a competitive, tough game in spite of it being a loss. That will do it for the evening. Virginia gets a pass because they didn't play this week. So good for them. We'll probably rag on them next week. But once again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to those who listened live, and thank you to those who will listen later on in the week. Larry B threw this comment out here. An delicious wine named Blackjack Port. 18% alcohol. You got to be careful with that one, Larry. Do not let that get away from you, sir, because that will be a night ruiner. Once again, please follow us on all social media platforms. On X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. You can follow yours truly on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Let's Wine _IASR. You can listen to us at all of these available options here. Check out our website as well with the merchandise, with the show pages, with the blog, all of the above. Also the IE Sports Radio Hall of Fame and Fan of the Month page. And of course, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Beef Brisket Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You guys are truly awesome. Reminder, of course, please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. Once again, all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.